Dr. Usman Ali Lawan is an expert in entrepreneurship and agribusiness development. He founded USAIFA International Limited in 2013, a sustainable farming venture that practices and promotes zero-waste agriculture. Lawan also founded Farmer in Suit, which I checked out and it looks really neat, an online investment platform which crowdsources funding and uses it to provide farm input credit, extension services, and links to markets for smallholder farms in a profit-sharing arrangement. He has more than 13 years' experience working on zero-waste agriculture while providing training and mentorship to a network of 7,250 smallholder farms across 4 states in Nigeria. Most of them are women and young folks. Lawan holds a PhD in business administration, agribusiness innovation, and entrepreneurship, and has a master's in energy studies and a Bachelor of Science in business administration. He's a senior fellow of the Aspen New Voices Fellowship and a recipient of the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders. I am so thrilled to get to learn about this model of supporting farmers and agriculture that has the potential to support farmers in a totally different way than I'm used to. So, welcome, Usman, with social entrepreneurship, a panacea to building sustainable and profitable agribusiness ventures in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Hello everyone, my name is Usman Ali Lawan. I am the founder and CEO of USAIFA International Limited. USAIFA is a sustainable farming venture that practices and promotes zero-waste agriculture in northern Nigeria. We also leverage a network of farmer cluster where we help them by providing them with farm extension service and training, microcredit, as well as link to market for their products, thereby helping them to increase their agricultural productivity and also improve their livelihoods. Today, I'll be speaking to you about how social entrepreneurship can be used as a tool to help build sustainable and profitable agribusiness ventures in Sub-Saharan Africa. Specifically, I will be highlighting some of the major challenges that farmers face in Africa. I will also be talking about how these challenges are affecting the food security crisis and making it even more difficult to achieve food security. I will also be talking about how these challenges are affecting the farmers' livelihood as well as our environment and the soil. I will talk about how USAIFA is using sustainable agricultural practice and social entrepreneurship to help some of the farmers in Nigeria to farm in a manner that is more sustainable and profitable. We'll be sharing some of our experience in the hope that this will serve as a learning process for more people to engage in sustainable farming practice across Africa using social entrepreneurship models. About 40% of the Nigerian population, that is 80 million people, make a living through agriculture. Most of these people are smallholder farmers who engage in subsistence farming practice. The average smallholder farmer in Nigeria does not have access to basic amenities like electricity or even formal education. In most cases, they barely receive the basic school certificates. These people do not have access to technology or mobile phones, and therefore they do not have access to, be able to receive agricultural innovations as they evolve. The average smallholder farmer lacks access to training. They do not have access to quality farm inputs, and they also do not have access to financial services, whether it is microcredit or farm insurance service. On average, the smallholder farmer receives his training through generational transfer of knowledge. What this means is, in most cases, they are taught how to farm by their parents, who are also taught how to farm by their own parents. So if you ask a smallholder farmer in rural Nigeria why he is practicing agriculture the way he does it, his likely answer will be, well, that is how my father did it, and that is how his father before him did it. Now, all of this has accumulated to compound some of the problems that these smallholder farmers are facing, and therefore pose a major risk on the drive to fight food security challenge and also to save our environment. Other challenges that the smallholder farmer faces include the unequal distribution of agricultural innovation systems. Because they do not have access to education, they don't have access to modern technology, they are not also able to access agricultural innovation. In most cases, they don't even know about it. For an average smallholder farmer in Nigeria, what will make a big difference in their life could mean just having the information to understand how to farm in a sustainable manner, to understand how to take care of their soil, to understand how to plant, when to plant, and even the planting, the plant population. This key information can be what makes the difference in terms of their productivity. These farmers also suffer from other challenges like extreme weather and inconsistent weather pattern, which are largely caused by climate change issues. And also, there is the problem of protracted conflict across Nigeria. So, in Nigeria's northeast, we have been battling the Boko Haram crisis for more than 13 years to now. And also, most recently, in the northwest, there is the problem of banditry. And of course, the farmer header crisis is another issue that has resulted in conflict and stopped farmers from being able to go to their farms. All of these challenges have accumulated and cause about 40 to 60% of all the food that is produced in Nigeria is lost to post-harvest losses, either due to some of this challenge or even due to poor link to market for the produce. Now, this also explains why, despite the number of people who engage in agricultural practice in Nigeria, the country still spends about $6.8 billion annually to import food. And these are some of the challenges that prompt us at USAIFA to think about developing a system that will help to solve some of these problems and help us to farm in a manner that is sustainable and also profitable, in a manner that saves our environment, saves our soil, and also help us to farm consistently. Being the grandson of a smallholder farmer myself, I have had the privilege of experiencing some of the difficulties and challenges that these smallholder farmers face. I know how my grandfather used to sweat himself out to be able to till the soil, plant his crop, grow them, and also harvest them. I know that back in the days, he would usually save what he considered to be the best seedling out of his harvest, and those he would keep to be used as seed for the next farming season. He didn't have any access to training or farm extension service support. He didn't know how to farm in a manner that was better. All he did was to do his best using his hard work and knowledge and information that he received through generational transfer. This is part of the reason why, for me, it is important to be able to help these smallholder farmers, not only so that we can increase agricultural productivity, which of course will help in solving the food security challenge, but also so that we can farm in a manner that is sustainable, that helps to preserve our environment and our soil, so that we can live in a more healthy environment. And this is where social entrepreneurship comes in. Social entrepreneurship has been defined as the process of developing a social value proposition which brings about inspiration and direct action that challenges an inherent unjust equilibrium, which usually causes marginalization or suffering to a certain segment of the society or community. Usually, this segment of the society lacks the financial means or the political will and clout to be able to achieve any transformative benefit on their own. And this is why they need a social entrepreneur, a leader, or a collective community action to be able to solve some of the major challenges. Research has shown that the average rural farmer can more than double their productivity simply by being able to have access to the right knowledge and the right information. And also, if they have access to financial services like microcredits when they need it and agricultural insurance to avoid any eventualities. Of course, if they also have the link to market for their produce. This helps to convert all of that produce into money, which can be used to improve their livelihoods. And it is because of this reason that we develop the zero waste agricultural system at USAIFA. Now, we develop two models. One is the technical aspect, which is the zero waste farming practice. And then as soon as we're able to perfect this, we realize there is another problem, which is that of funding. And because of that, we had to develop what we call the Farmer in Suits platform. Now, the zero waste farming model. We develop a sustainable farming practice where we're able to produce high quality and affordable poultry and fish produce to be sold at commercial level. But also, we are able to achieve this by leveraging on a network of smallholder farmers. So we created a cycle where the waste product of one process serves as input for the next process. So the smallholder farmers that we work with in our cluster help us to produce crops like maize, soybeans, and granules. These are the primary raw materials for poultry and fish feed. Now, the grains go into, becoming fish and poultry feed, which is now used to feed the livestock and the poultry. At the end of this cycle, we take all of the agricultural residues on the field and also the poultry dropping and the wastewater from the fish production. We use all of this to collect the agricultural residues and form them into organic compost fertilizer, which goes back to the field to serve as fertilizer for the next cycle of crop production. Now, this system of zero waste cycle optimizes the use of plants, animal, and bacteria to produce a biodiverse poultry and fish products where the waste products of one process automatically cycles and becomes the input for the next process. By doing this, we are able to reduce wastages to near zero. But most importantly, we're able to help the smallholder farmer to increase his productivity and also increase his profit by about 30%, but also conserve his environment and protect his soil. Now, once we are able to achieve this, and as the number of smallholder farmers in our cluster continue to grow, we realize that we had another problem, which is actually the problem of resources and funding. And this is why we develop the web platform, which we call the Farmer in Suit platform. The Farmer in Suit platform is a crowdfunding model that leverages on professionals, everyday professionals like doctors, lawyers, engineers, people who understand the problem of food security, people who understand the environmental challenges, who want to farm, but either they don't have the knowledge to become farmers themselves, or simply they do not have the time to become farmers because of their conventional work. These people we crowdfund resources from them so that they are able to help us sponsor smallholder farmers. The resources that they give us is used to provide the training as well as the microcredit and the link to market for the smallholder farmer. At the end of the farming season, the profit that is made is shared between the smallholder farmer and the farm sponsor and also USAIFA. On our network, USAIFA has a cluster of 7,250 smallholder farmers who receive training on sustainable farming practice through a farmer field school system. So what we have done is we also developed a farmer field school where we're able to teach these farmers by showing them the right practice in good agronomic practice that will help them to farm in a sustainable manner. We also provide the farmers with advisory service. So it's not enough to receive training. We also provide them with advisory services and farm extension service supports to help them in ensuring consistency in their production process and pattern. Finally, USAIFA serves as an off-taker for the smallholder farmers. So where we can, we serve as the market for all of their agricultural produce. And where we are not able to take off this produce, we help the smallholder farmers to find alternative markets so that they're able to sell their produce at when it's needed. Now, the way our system works, we develop a teaching method which we call the three-way teaching method of showing, telling, and doing. Now, because of the way smallholder farmers receive their training and farming knowledge through generational transfer of knowledge, it is a little challenging to be able to provide them with new information and show them how to farm in a manner that is sustainable. And this is why it is important for us to develop the farmer field school where they're able to come in not only to receive training, but also to see us do the practice and also have them engage in this farming practice by themselves. This way, they're able to see clearly how we are making a difference in terms of agricultural productivity compared to their business as usual. Because most of the farmers that we work with do not have any formal education, we develop a means of creating cartoon characters that are used in providing this training. Now, because pictures are more visual, it is easier for the farmer to understand and remember the training that they receive through these cartoon illustrations. Of course, we also use the local language to provide this training. But before we go into providing the training itself, we have a laid down stakeholder engagement and onboarding process. So once we go into a community, we try to understand what are the peculiar agricultural challenges that the farmers are facing. The resources that we provide to these farmers are actually on a need basis, and therefore they are very, very specific. Some of the farmers don't need money. Maybe what they need is the training. Others need the training, but they also need farm input credits. Some farmers only need access to farm inputs to be able to know where to buy the right farm inputs and also how to improve their processes, while others might require only link to market for their produce. So we try to understand what are the specific agricultural challenges that the smallholder farmers are facing. This helps, of course, for us to be able to prepare the right solution to the right farmers. We try to find out if they have received any agricultural training in the past, or if they are receiving any agricultural training at present. Of course, most times what we find is that they do not receive any agricultural training. Of course, we also try to understand the crop type that they produce in that location, and also what are the farming techniques that they use. We try to understand why they use those techniques so that we are able to align this information with our own training plans for them. Because we understand that unless the smallholder farmers are able to own the process, we will not be able to achieve sustainability in terms of seeing that they continue to practice what they have learned. So we also look at the nature of community support. We try to understand if they have any cooperative system and whether these cooperative systems are formalized and registered. Where they are not, we try to help them create one by encouraging them and showing them the importance of coming together as a group. We also try to understand the farmers' expectations and their perception generally on agriculture, and whether they think it is important for them to engage in farming practice that help to preserve the soil and is environmentally friendly. We also, of course, try to understand if they have had any economic interventions or if they are receiving any at the moment. Again, most times what we find is that they do not receive any economic intervention. Well, sometimes when they do, these people receive farm inputs maybe around September. So if you're familiar with the weather in Nigeria, the farming season is usually starts between March every year, and it ends by the end of September or October. Now, when you give a smallholder farmer farm inputs in October or September, when he actually needed that farm input in March, the farm input that you have given to him will not do any good to him at the time you are providing it. So these are some of the things that we try to understand and provide specific solutions based on the need of the farmers and their own environment. Of course, the next step is we engage in soil testing. It is very, very important for us to be able to conserve the environment. For us to be able to protect the soil, we need to understand the soil properties. We need to understand the texture class. We need to understand the pH level and all of the other properties of the soil, because this helps us to understand what nutrient is lacking, what is needed, and also if there is any likelihood of weed seeds or infective juveniles in the soil, so that we'll be able to provide the right treatment for it. We also do crop and land suitability analysis. In most cases, we find that smallholder farmers are engaged in production of certain crop simply because that is what is being done around that area. Of course, the environmental issue and what is being produced in those areas might be important and significant. However, what we have found is sometimes those are not the most suitable produce to produce by ranking. So what we normally do is we look at the soil parameters, including the composition, percentage of clay soil, silt, and sand in that soil. We look at the pH level, we look at the organic matter, we look at total nitrogen and all the other soil properties and nutrient value. This helps us to understand what kind of fertilizer is required to be used in the soil. Of course, we also look at the soil health status and we look at pathogen inoculum. We look at weed seeds. We look at any nematode eggs or infective juvenile within the soil, so that we are able to provide the right solution before it becomes a problem for the soil and the farmer. And finally, we do the crop suitability analysis and ranking. We look at what crop is most ideal to produce in that environment, of course, through the soil tests. Most farmers find this to be very, very important because we know that more than 90% of the smallholder farmers do not engage in soil testing, and therefore they do not understand the value that comes with it. Now, farmers on our platform are able to understand this value because we show it to them and we emphasize it, and of course, they are able to see the results. The national average for productivity for maize in Nigeria is about 2 tons per hectare. However, our farmers are able to achieve about 5 tons per hectare in their maize production. And we attribute most of this credit to the sustainable farming practice that we teach them and they adapt. Of course, we are also very, very focused in terms of taking care of the soil. And this is why we adopt a minimal tillage system and the Zai-Pit method. So for instance, in Nigeria's northeast, in Borno State, this is an area where the rain pattern is inconsistent, and sometimes there is a very long gap between the first rain and the next rain. To be able to manage this inconsistency in rain pattern, we adopted the Zai-Pit method. So we show the farmers how to make the Zai-Pit and plant within the pit, rather than just making ridges or plant in the traditional method. The Zai-Pit is a system where you create a small hole of about 500 inches, 12 centimeters, that's 1 feet, and at the diameter of 2 feet in square form. Then you plant the crop inside the Zai-Pit and also provide manure and mulch the surface of the pit using agricultural residues from the field. This method helps when you apply water to the plant. The Zai-Pit method helps to conserve the water so that it takes a longer period of time before the water in the pit is finished, and then you will be able to apply more water. Of course, most of our smallholder farmers are engaged in subsistence farming, and therefore they use mechanical handheld tools like the hoe and the cutlasses. So normally it is easy for us to be able to teach them how to engage in minimal tillage system. We make sure that we show them how to position their ridges to avoid and also manage any case of erosion on the farmland, and also to be able to produce their crop without disturbing and hurting the soil and the environment. Now, the next thing we do is we also try to teach the smallholder farmers how to produce their own compost fertilizer. Now, the normal practice for most smallholder farmers in Nigeria, after the farming season is over for the year, once they have harvested everything on the farm, whatever is left on the field, including all agricultural residue, they set on fire, because it is easier for them to manage the field by merely burning whatever waste is left on the farm. This practice is very harmful to the environment because, of course, it increases it hurts the environment, and also it increases the risk of fire outbreak and wildfire in these communities. So what we have done is we teach the smallholder farmers how they can put together all of these agricultural residues and use manure or poultry dropping or animal dropping to collect these agricultural residues and make it into organic compost fertilizer. By doing this, they are able to first help to save the environment, and they're also able to save themselves of any risk of fire outbreak. And also, they're able to reduce the costs of purchasing synthetic fertilizer. Most of our farmers who engage in this practice are able to reduce their cost of purchasing fertilizer by up to 40%. We also teach the smallholder farmers how to use organic pesticides, whether it is making pesticides using neem products, neem leaves, neem seeds, and also other products from the tree, and also using chili pepper to be able to it's cheaper, it's affordable, but most importantly, it is sustainable, and it helps to conserve the environment. So because of all this practice, our farmers are able to see how their output increases, and therefore their lives is better off. Now, by teaching these methods, we are able to achieve some fundamental impact in the lives of the smallholder farmer, but also we are able to achieve environmental conservation. Now, our system is a unique model of providing market access by developing crowdfunding platform for these smallholder farmers. So whatever resources they need, whether it is training, farm extension service support, farm input credit, and also link to market to their produce, they are able to find this through our system. And we are able to see the results of how this system helps to increase the productivity of the smallholder farmer and improve their livelihood. But also there is the farm sponsor, the everyday professionals who are in posh offices in the cities in Nigeria that are able to provide support for these smallholder farmers. Of course, these farm sponsors also receive a reward, a return on their investment from the profit that smallholder farmers make. But most importantly, they're able to find fulfillment in knowing that they are helping to increase the productivity of smallholder farmers, thereby helping to solve the problem of food security, but also doing it in a manner that is sustainable and is profitable. Secondly, our farmers are able to produce about 5 tons of maize per hectare. This is actually more than 300% compared to the national average of 2 tons of maize per hectare in Nigeria. We are also able to reduce the cost of fertilizer for most of our smallholder farmers by converting the agricultural residues into compost fertilizer, instead of allowing them to burn these agricultural residues at the end of every farming season, which of course damages the soil and the environment, and also puts their communities at risk of fire outbreak. Through social entrepreneurship and sustainable farming practice, USAIFA is able to help smallholder farmers to improve their waste management by up to 60%, and also prevent the farmers from burning all of that agricultural waste and putting it into good use. Now, all of this system that is utilized by farmers on our platform has been able to translate into additional income of $172 per hectare on average across all the 3 crops that we are focused in, which is actually maize, soybeans, and groundnuts. Now, this is 32% above the average that every smallholder farmer in Nigeria makes. Finally, all of this has helped to increase the income of the smallholder farmer, which in turn has a fundamental impact on their access to basic human needs like healthcare, housing, food security, and even education for themselves and their children. And clearly, this is showing to us that using social entrepreneurship and also sustainable farming method If applied well, if we are able to help provide the smallholder farmer with the right knowledge and the right information and the right resources, timely when they need it, and also good link to market for their produce, using sustainable models and methods, we will be able to help increase agricultural productivity, thereby helping to fight the food security challenge and achieve food security. But also, we'll be able to help save our environment and conserve it. And of course, we then will be able to have happy farmers who are able to, live a better, more productive life in an environment that is more secure and is sustainable. Thank you very much.
Tieni means let's go. Tieni encourages women into leadership roles and provides essential farming inputs. For more videos like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Catherine Soko is deep-bed lead farmer in Mlongwes Kamanga village in Manyamula Extension Planning Area in Mzimba district.
I started deep-bed farming in 2019. I was harvesting 5 to 6 bags, but now I am harvesting more than 50 kg bags. I have enough food.
Impressed with the achievements of Catherine, a follower farmer, Patricia Tew is all smiles due to the gains from her deep-bed farming.
I was harvesting 6 bags. Now I get 48 bags. So this is a good improvement. There is profit in deep beds farming. Let's all do it.
Both farmers can testify they have bought solar lights and are able to pay school fees for their children apart from practicing animal husbandry.
Just $50 is enough to train a farmer for life. Tieni farmers ultimately enjoy reduced farming expenses and a cash income for essentials like school fees.